My first experience for the first 12 months of the real estate world was evicting people from their houses and doing cash for keys.
What's going on, everybody? I'm excited. Today I have a commercial real estate broker, investor, and also YouTuber. His name's Henry Eisenstein. How's it going, Henry?
Doing amazing, my friend. How about yourself?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for hopping on here. I was talking just before we started recording, but I've watched a lot of your YouTube content. I know you put out a lot of valuable information, and I'm excited to kind of pick your brain on some topics today.
I appreciate it, and I'm ready to rock, my friend.
Well, I'll just go ahead and jump right into it. One of the first questions I have is, how did you get started in real estate?
I was in sort of like corporate America-esque type of position back when I was 20, because I got in the business when I was 20, or just before my 21st birthday. And I was running a couple franchises, and I was watching $1 Million Listing New York all the time just for fun. And then a friend of mine was like, hey, why don't we get our real estate licenses? So I quit my corporate job making $45, $50K a year that I had quit college for, and went to get my license. So I didn't even have my license yet. I just kind of went all in on going to get my license. I ended up passing the test. My friend never passed the test. So my life changed forever because of that conversation we had, and his life never changed. So, it's kind of crazy to be sitting here now. We joke around about it all the time about how he kind of crafted or shifted the direction of my entire life because of that conversation, but kind of fell into the business.
Nice. Okay, cool. Did you start right in commercial real estate, or did you start I know a lot of people start in residential, then make the transition.
But just like most people, I started in residential. It's kind of funny because I was watching $1 Million Listing. We're watching these nice, gorgeous condos for millions of dollars, and these guys, having this fun life. I'm 21 years old when I get in the business, and the only person that I knew was this woman who was was a prominent agent on the REO space, so if you don't know what that is the pre-foreclosure world, or the foreclosure world with banks. So essentially my job at 21, watching $1 Million Listing in New York, I come into this business and I'm evicting people from their homes. My first experience for the first 12 months of the real estate world was evicting people from their houses and doing cash for keys. Taking pictures of really crappy properties and stuff like that around New Jersey. So very, very different experience from what I had in mind to what the reality was.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big disconnect. I know a lot of people get into just real estate in general, and they get into it and they're like, wow, this is not nearly as easy as I thought.
Yeah, I didn't even start prospecting until like 10 or 11 months into the business. So very different than what I expected.
Yeah, I know you're big on prospecting. I have some questions later about that, but how did you end up making the switch from residential to commercial?
Yeah, so I ended up building a team over a number of years after my treacherous 2 years in the business and quitting and then coming back. I ended up building a team to well over 100 transactions a year, and a lot of the business was built off of working with investors, doing a lot of finding off-market deals, building and scaling a wholesaling business on the side. And a lot of those deals we would flip to we'd essentially assign them to an investor, then I would walk them through the process of managing their deal in the meantime, and then listing the property for sale. So a lot of deals that I did, more than a third of the business I was doing was investor based, and then my investors started graduating to larger deals, so I obviously followed suit. So kind of fell into the world of commercial pretty let's say a couple years ago, and started doing larger multifamily deals to begin with. Then it started stretching into industrial, retail, you name it. Now we've done just about every single asset class you could possibly think of.
Nice. Do you focus on a specific asset class right now?
Predominantly right now, we're big time in industrial, multifamily, and retail. Those are the three-prong, asset classes that we focus on the most. Sometimes, here and there we find land for development opportunities, but most of the time it's those three asset classes.
Nice. Yeah, that's funny. That's exactly what I focus on as well. Trying to steer away from multifamily. Like, I like multifamily, and there's obviously lots of opportunity in it, but industrial and retail properties are just so much more, it's just so much easier.
Yeah, when I try to talk to people about sort of what we do is that, I'm an investment broker. I don't care about the asset class specifically. It's just we look for great deals. We look for opportunities to make money. So, I basically treat my brokerage like a family office, and we need to move money constantly, and we look for the best opportunities in the marketplace to move it into.
Oh, that makes sense. So what market? I know you're in you said you're in Miami, correct?
Yeah. So I live in Miami now, but I run my team, and still vast majority of my business is still in New Jersey.
Cool. Did you move down to Miami recently, or?
About 90 days ago. Fiance and I hate the cold, so we decided to move down here, and I've been running everything remotely and prospecting remotely, doing deals remotely.
Do you have boots on the ground up in New Jersey for?
Yes.
I guess when you cold call somebody, I assume.
Yep.
Cool. What does most of your day look like? So I know you do a lot of prospecting, a lot of cold calling. Are you calling mostly for brokerage, or are you cold calling for investments for yourself, or kind of a mix of the two?
My script book is actually on every single one of my YouTube videos, so you can kind of read exactly what, like, my script book is what I say, right? Like, it's not just an idea. It's like, it's actually what I say on every single one of my calls. I do a lot of live calling sessions. You can see that all on YouTube. But a lot of the time, I'm I deal with real estate slightly differently than most, where like I look through multiple lenses, where like my first lens is as a principal buyer. Like if I found an unbelievable deal, like when I'm prospecting, I'm looking for the best deals in the marketplace. When I'm calling, I am calling as a principal buyer, because if I can get this deal for the best price, like an unbelievably good price, I want to buy it. That is my first intention. You know, whether you can think about that as syndicating money, raising capital, using my own money, does not matter. I want to buy the deal. That's my first priority. And then based on their response and their mindset around selling, about how motivated they are around selling and the price point at which they need to be in order to sell, I then flip the conversation into, I also do hold a license. So, you know, again, at this price point, it doesn't really make sense for me, but I could also introduce a few of my clients who I think this might be perfect for, and I can see if I can get you a great offer. I transition from principal to an agent, but I never really pitch for listings. Like, you know, that's not my forte.
No, that makes sense. And do you ever go on to list those properties, or do you mostly just try to first look at it like an investor, second, see if you have a buyer interested? Because you said, you know, you're working with a lot of investor buyers, or do you ever go on to listing them, or do you mostly just try to?
Very, very rarely do we do that, but it starts off of investor first, make an offer that way. Second is broker the deal to another investor. And then third is saying, like, you know, if it's really that high priced and it really doesn't make that much sense to anybody, and we still want to, you know, they're still very open to selling the property, then we say, would you be totally against listing the property for sale or having us market the property? It's like a tertiary idea.
That's interesting. That's kind of the approach I've taken. It seems to work pretty well, and people are a lot more receptive to picking up the phone and talking to you, having a conversation with you if you are the buyer, rather than calling to say, hey, I have somebody who's interested in this property, or, you know, I'm a broker and I'd like to bring you a buyer. People seem to be a lot more receptive to, I'm actually an investor myself. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, of course. I've made well over 1 million cold calls in my career, and I test and trial everything in the script book, right? Like, so it's like, I'm the first one to trial something. So like, I like trying different word tracks all the time to see if it's going to work better or not, but it's hard to trial it over 3 conversations, right? Like, so it's like, I do it over the course of a month or two, over thousands of conversations. And, you know, I see the results and I say, like, okay, does this improve my conversion? Does this improve the conversation? Does this give us a better rate of return when we're having a conversation, like what you found out calling as the principal? Does that actually hold true, that they like talking to, or we have a better reception rate when you're speaking with somebody as the principal versus a broker? We found that we do. So that's why we typically will always have the conversation as a principal first and then transition later, instead of saying, I'm a realtor. Oh, wait, this is actually a good deal. I'll buy it. The philosophy is the same, right? Like, because if you call up as a realtor and then they want to sell it for 10 cents on the dollar, you're going to be like, oh, I'll buy it right now. All of a sudden, it's the same conversation, but backwards.
Do you ever see that as like a conflict of interest with your clients? Because I've had somebody ask me, like, oh, if you're buying deals now and you're calling for these deals, like, if you get a really good deal, you're just going to keep it for yourself rather than sell it off. Like, have you seen that to be an issue? When
you're talking about a conflict of interest, let's be clear. A conflict of interest when it comes to representing a buyer is that for them to think that I can close on 100% of properties that I'm prospecting is completely bananas. I can buy and obviously I do fairly okay in the business, but like I can't buy 100% of the deals we come across. It's just not possible. And like I can't even syndicate deals that fast. So obviously like I'm not going to be able to take down 100% of the deals that we find. But yeah, I also want you to be, I want to be very clear. The best deals around that I have, and I have the capital for, in locations that I can make sense of and asset classes that I can make sense of course I'm going to want to buy it. Of course. And at the same time, does that mean that's a conflict of interest? I don't think there's enough like for me to do that. You know, maybe in 20 years when I'm worth, a few hundred mil and like I'll be calling only for myself at that point. But right now, and at least for the next 10 or 20 years, like I have a few investment partners that I call based off of, and they get 99.9% of product, and I buy 0.1% on my own. And then those rest of those deals, I'll roll my commission in with them because I don't want to be an operator. I don't even think I'm that great of an operator. I'll partner with great operators. They run the deal. They syndicate more money. I'll roll my commission plus a couple bucks if I have to. And we, everybody's happy.
Oh, that's interesting. That was, I think that's a good point to make. And then that actually leads me to another question. So that's kind of how you structure your deal. You prefer to be an LP rather than the GP?
100%.
The deal.
I know my strong suit, right? Like I am not responsible and don't want to be responsible for renting out the property, for like, I don't even want to be the broker to, like, everyone's like, oh, well, if I have equity in the deal, I'll get the leasing. I don't want the leasing. I don't want that. I don't want people calling me, other brokers calling me to try to show back. No, I don't care about the extra few $1,000. Fine. Like, we'll do it where like I could be the listing broker, right? Or even partner with the listing broker and try to do what I can. But like, let somebody else do that. It's not my specialty. I know what I'm great at, and it's finding great off-market deals. So I want to spend more of my time doing that. I don't want to be taken away for other stuff. Like, I've owned several properties where I own 100% of the deal, and I've had to manage it 100%. It sucks. Yeah, it sucks. It's not fun. It's not. And like, I have a lot of my tenants who don't even understand how to pay Venmo or Zelle. So I have to go pick up a wad of cash, which I know it sounds crazy, but I live in Florida and I literally have to fly home to pick up a stack of cash, tens of thousands of dollars in cash. And I know I'm saying boo-hoo to me, but I'm saying that's not scalable is what I'm trying to say. Like, that's not a way to run a business. For me to fly home for 3 days to pick up a stack of cash and say hi to my team is like all fun and dandy, but like, that's not scalable across 500 plus units. It's cool with 40 units, but like for me to go to 400 or 4,000 units, that doesn't make sense. I have to delegate that.
So it's most of your portfolio, or actually break down what your portfolio looks like. Is it a lot of it in multifamily? I assume if you're getting cash, renting in cash, or is it
large percentage
retail? Or
I have a large percentage of it in multifamily, about 40 units multifamily. I think it's like 42 units multifamily. And then I'm a partner in 60,000 square feet of industrial and retail.
Nice. And so you're the LP on those deals?
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like there's not a lot of brokers who buy deals, which is crazy to me. They get into business and they broker a lot of deals and they're working with investors and they're not buying deals. And, it only took me a couple of years to figure out, like, I need to be buying these properties.
Just think about it from like the really simplistic standpoint of this. Don't even come out of pocket for it. Just the next deal you're going to make 50 grand or more on, take $25,000, take half the commission and roll it into the deal. Don't manage it. Don't deal with it. If you have an investor you've done a few deals with that you trust, roll 25 grand into it, get a small LP position, and just do that once a year for the next 10 years. And eventually that 25K stacks and compounds where like eventually now you're making 100 residually plus the 100 in the business, where it's like, that's what we all dream of, right? Where like eventually you have enough cash flow where like you don't even rely on the sales anymore, but it starts with just a little bit. It doesn't have to be $200,000 invested. You could take 10 grand, 25 grand, right, on your next big check.
No, that's a great strategy. I actually just did that for the first time. 2 duplexes that popped on the market in my local area, and I recognized they were a good deal. So I put them under contract, and then I went to some of the clients I've worked with for a long time and ended up partnering on the deal with them. So
smart.
I got some ownership in it, and that was the first one I did that way. But now it kind of opened my mind to I need to continue to do this.
Just do 1 or 2 a year. That's it. Like, and just think about like I'm in this business. I'm committed to this business for the next 30 years, right? Like I'm not. This is not a 2-year sprint, right? This is a 30-year marathon where I'm like, if I'm just smart 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 times a year and move my money into a deal, I'll be perfectly okay in a couple decades.
Yeah, definitely. So your main strategy is basically just knowing your strong suit, which is being good at finding deals, being good at prospecting, sourcing the deal, and then from sourcing the deal, you can make commissions, you can live off that money, and then also you can roll some of your money into the owning the assets versus trying to be the GP and managing them. Yeah,
my philosophy is that the person who sources great off-market deals typically will not have a problem making money. It's like one of the most lucrative financial tasks that you can do in the world of investment real estate. The more great deals you find, typically money, it's like a magnet. It's really hard. If you have a really good deal, money is magnetized to you. Yeah. It's going to be hard. You're going to be repelling money. If you have a really, really good deal, try not to make money on it.
No, that's a good point. One of the other questions I had, have you ever heard of commercial brokers kind of doing like basically commercial wholesaling? So obviously there's tons of residential wholesalers, but have you come across anybody, or do you yourself do any commercial wholesales where you'll tie up a deal, you're like, I don't really want to own this deal, but I know there's enough meat on the bone to put it under contract and then flip it to somebody else?
The short answer is yes. And the longer answer is it depends. Have I done commercial wholesaling? Yes. Does it occur all the time? No, because it depends on how big the spread is. Because think about it like this. If you have a $3 million deal, okay? $3 million deal, decent sized property. If hypothetically you're like, oh, this is a decent deal, and you'll lock it up for $3 million. Okay. But the upside on this deal is hypothetically a buyer is only willing to pay $3.1 million. Why on planet Earth would I wholesale it? I might as well just take a 3%, 3.5% broker fee and everybody's happy, right? There's no reason to double close or assign the deal when everyone's like, oh, how much money do you have it locked up for? Right. And I got to go through like all the trouble of trying to be like kind of funny with the deal. But it's like, if I'm going to make $1 million, which there's a few deals right now that I'm working on where like there are 7-figure spreads on the deals that I'm working on. You better believe I'm wholesaling these deals, or I'm just going to work as I'll roll my money into it. Just depends on what I want to do at that point, right? At least I have the decision now, right? So, but my first philosophy is make an offer as the principal first, make the decision on how I make money on it later. Because the first step is get it locked up. I don't care how it's locked up. It can be locked up with me as the LLC or not. It does not matter. It doesn't matter. But if it's a great deal, you don't ever lose it. So lock it up right away. And if I end up brokering the deal and charging somebody 6% commission, I charge somebody 6% commission. But if there's enough spread to where it's like 32% commission on the deal, obviously I'm not going to take a broker fee. You're making 32% commission. That's a little weird. But when you make it, if you do a double close, there's enough money there. So it just depends. Like you have to have enough spread. I don't just look at something like this is 100% of the time a wholesale.
No, it depends on the opportunity. It's kind of case by case.
Exactly.
Which kind of alludes to your whole strategy of look at it as an investor first, then potentially a broker. Then if there's enough spread, but you don't want to actually close on it yourself, you could wholesale it.
Yeah, just guys, like think about it. Like there are so many ways to see a property. What is the most lucrative? What makes the most sense? Analyze each option and choose the best one. I'm also just a fan of I think that brokering is just so simple, right? And it's like nobody asks any questions. I can make 6% on almost any size deal as long as the seller's happy with their net and the buyer's happy with the price they're paying for. No one bats an eye. So it's if my assignment fee is the same exact thing, I just don't ever understand why it's like it always has to be one way. That's just not the way I ever look at things. It's like, what's the best solution where everybody's happy and I make a reasonable amount of money where I'm content with it? I'll do that.
No, that makes sense. Kind of just creating a win-win for everybody.
100%.
Walk me through kind of how you're set up now. So do you have your own, I know you said you had a team, but do you have your own company and then you have a team under that, or are you working under some commercial real estate firm, or what was the process like going from just you to a whole team?
Right now, I'm with EXP Realty. I'm on the commercial side of EXP. They do not allow teams, like the traditional team structures. Most commercial brokerages are a little bit weird with that, a little bit fuzzy because of the E&O insurance doesn't protect for that. But what I do is I have separate agreements with individuals where I partner with teams now, where I basically take 50% of a team ownership and I manage the entire team with sales, trading, underwriting deals, making offers on properties. So now I partner with a number of individuals all across the country, a number of them in Jersey, where all of them, they're in all my trainings. I'm with them on the phones, prospecting, coaching, mentoring them, but also I get first action on all these deals all around the country. My goal is to partner with 100 agents as teams. And then each one of those teams can get between 20 and 50 and 100 agents size wise each, right? But at least there's a boots on the ground team leader in each of those areas. I just do all the sales training and the system side. And, this way I can kind of speed up the process in which the team grows. So right now, I have 6 partner agents and I'm looking to partner with more. And essentially, all my teams to combine, we do over 10,000 calls a day, which is how we come across a lot of these good opportunities.
Yeah, that was actually another question I had. Do you have I know you have a whole coaching program, but do you have what's your goal every day in terms of calls?
Yeah, I mean, my goal is to get, it's actually funny. So I do these Post-its every day. So I don't know if you can, is that backwards for you?
5
okay, cool.
leads, 2 LOIs.
Yeah, 2 LOIs, 2 accepted offers, then my goals, and then my mantra, win the day. I mean, that's what I focus on every single day. I personally, this is not just obviously team-wide, this is me personally. So every day I want to write up to at least, obviously if I get 5 great leads, I want to write up 5 offers, right? That's every great lead that I get, I want to make an offer on. My goal is to try to get an offer accepted every single day. When it comes to dialing, I'm probably somewhere between 300 and 400 calls, or 200 to 400 calls a day, depending on what my schedule looks like.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, every day from 9 a.m. to 12 or 1-ish, depends on how the day is scheduled, but somewhere in that vicinity every day. I'll make 3 or 4 hours worth of calls.
And are you using a dialer? I assume you've got it.
100%. So I'm a huge fan of Mojo. So I'll export lead lists from Reonomy and CoStar, and I'll upload it to Mojo.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, I had asked you about Reonomy before. I use Mojo, but I've used PropStream. I was thinking about Reonomy, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet. That's kind of what I'm looking at next. But would you recommend?
Yeah, I'm working with the VP right now to try to, or one of their managers to try to work on a discounted rate, for a lot of my agents all around the country that are following the journey. So I'm working on it. So as soon as I have it, I'll be able to support people in getting a nice discount, because it is $400 a month if you try to get it on your own.
How are you building your lists? Are you I know you said you're using Reonomy, but are you targeting, for example, a lot of my target owner is somebody who's owned it for a long time, probably 20 plus years. They're an older person. They're getting tired of managing the property. They would like to sell the property, but they're worried about capital gains tax. So then it kind of introduces the possibility of seller financing. That's kind of who I'm targeting, but I'm curious, who are you targeting, and how are you building the list that you get to call? Because it seems like calling 300 people a day, you'd have to have a pretty big list.
Just to kind of give you some scope of idea here, we prospect statewide, not asset class wide. or both, right? Like, so like we're looking at this in the sense of, because what I see most commercial brokers do, they're like, oh yeah, I pull a list of like my city or my county. I'm like, that's cool at all, but like you're going to call every single one of those properties in a week, right? Like, especially if you have it in a dialer. So like we call statewide, right? Across several different asset classes. So it's like we have tens of thousands of leads that we're calling, and we hit lists over and over and over again. Like our philosophy is we hit a list 6 times in 90 days.
6 times in 90 days.
Again, if you have a lead list of 1,000, that means you're calling that's 6,000 leads now, technically, or 6,000 calls, right? Because you're hitting that same list 6 times before we just get rid of it. And we don't even get rid of it. We then import it into an auto campaign that we have, which does ringless voicemails, auto text messages, and auto emails. Like we run it through the ringer dialing first to try to pull out the best leads, and then we run it through the automations. This is how we're trying to constantly figure out ways to better improve our system so that we can have a higher conversion rate on those deals. But if you go to Reonomy, which I'm looking at right now, hold on, try to figure out the best way to explain this over the phone. So if you go to advanced search in Reonomy, you're going to then open up where I basically, my philosophy right now and a lot of the lead lists that we pull is, number one, you go to sales and you do not within the last 10 years. So it has not traded within the last 10 years. You're also going to then go to owner, and you're going to find the ones that include a phone number. I like to go to tax, and then I like to put a tax amount of roughly $20,000 or $25,000. So I'm calling larger properties, and I'm not calling cheaper properties, because if you leave it open, then you're just calling every size property. You call it 2,000 square foot, or it doesn't matter what it is, right? So I like to have a minimum where I'm calling on average a $2 million property or larger. So like typically in New Jersey, we have very expensive taxes. So we do 20,000. So that's, minimum $2 million purchase. And then on top of that, I like to do, let's just say, hold on, ready? We'll do this as an example. I want to give you an idea of how many properties are available right now. There's 8,500 properties that have not sold within the last 10 years that have a phone number that are industrial in the state of New Jersey. Right. So it's like I have 8,300 properties to choose from. Instead of like if I do a county, I'm going to have 400.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then you'd get through that list pretty quickly if you're doing 300 or 400, right?
Yeah. So, but that's why we'll shave down certain things, right? So we'll do not within the last 5 years, right? So now all of a sudden that 8,500 turns into 11,500. We'll do, property taxes, we'll drop it down to 15,000, right? Like we'll kind of, make some slight adjustments where we can keep trying to pry out a couple more deals every single time that we do it.
Gotcha. And then you just keep cycling through them. So you're calling.
Yeah, we cycle through over. Jersey. Yeah, I mean, look, we have teams that we have teams. No, so we have teams in Jersey. I have one team here in Florida, one team in California, one team in Texas.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
So, but again, we're doing statewide across multiple asset classes. So like we try to, the challenge is like in every area, you're only going to have so many phone numbers, right? So like our opportunity basis is like, I don't know, call it 100,000 per state. So there's 100,000 per state, and we're trying to get like what, 0.5%, 1/4% in each state. There's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And when you're calling that, like in North Carolina, for example, if we go to Durham and look at industrial deal, the price per foot is going to be way different than somewhere like Greensboro. So like, how are you identifying good deals, based on the price? Are you looking at price per foot? Are you looking at cap rate? If if the seller gives you the income, are you looking at, what are you looking at?
So, again, it depends, but for the most part, we go for cheap intrinsic value, which is typically found on multifamily as a price per unit cost, or for retail and industrial as a price per square foot cost. We want cheap intrinsic value first. Most importantly, though, when you're buying deals is an internal rate of return. So we want to know at what price, with what type of upside are we seeing in this property that we can achieve a 25 to 35% IRR. That's our goal. Because like cash on cash is fantastic. Obviously, we'd love to go into a deal where day one we're cash flowing, but I'd rather buy it at a steal. Even if it's only a 6 cap, right, or a 4 cap, I'd rather buy, like right now we're in contract on a deal where it's a 4.5 cap, but we're buying the deal at $120 a square foot when the market is 200 plus. So like our upside is unbelievable when it comes to the market rate. We're going to be able to increase the rent on this building by probably 2.25 times. Yeah. So it's like, I don't care if I'm buying it at a 4.5 cap. I'm buying it at a cheap intrinsic price.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as there's that value to be added, whether it's restructuring leases to triple net and doubling them or tripling them, or whatever it may be. That's kind of what the company that I work with does all day long. They buy retail and industrial assets in North Carolina, where they'll buy it at an existing 4 cap, but after they restructure and reposition the asset after a year or two, it's going to be like a 12 cap.
That's the goal. That's where your IRRs are really high, and like everyone, that's all investors are looking for. We want a great internal rate of return. What is the return on my money? That's all I care about.
Yeah. And are you calculating that to a specific hold period, or do you kind of just
depends on the hold period? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like we're typically looking at holding these properties at anywhere between 3 and typically. I mean, there are some times where it's like it's probably going to be a little bit longer, and other ones we look at typically somewhere between a 3 or 5 year period of time of a decent IRR, where we have the option where if we would like to, we could sell it at that point and make a really good IRR, or we have a decision to make.
No, that's a lot of value. A couple more questions I had. One of them, I saw your Instagram post the other day, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. But what's the biggest commission check or just check in general related to real estate that you've made so far in your career?
I mean, obviously the other week, we had a multi 6-figure check, which was nice. Yeah, that's probably the largest one personally that I've had, but I mean, a lot of 6-figure. I mean, I'm still chasing the 7-figure one, but it's like, it's all relative. It's a game. Who cares? It's just it's about like what you do with that money. Because like I think it's cooler. Like, okay, cool. Like you make a big check, but it's like, okay, well, not only do you make a big check, how much of that is being reinvested into real estate? How much money? Like I want to get my passive cash flow to beat me on my active income, right? So I'm trying to get to several $100,000 a month in passive cash flow, which I'm going to obviously have to invest. We're talking tens of millions of dollars, but that's why I think in 30-year periods. But
no, definitely. What advice would you give to somebody who's just wanting to get into commercial real estate, whether it's on the investing side or just wanting to be a broker?
Biggest thing is just pound phones. Get on the phones right away. Download my script book. It's literally exactly what I say. There's there's no smoke and mirrors there. It's free. Pick up the phone. Start dialing and start look, tour property, walk property, underwrite properties, like get into the game of it, right? Like you don't have to be 20 years in the business to, learn how to underwrite properties, right? And like just get into the act of like every lead you get, you underwrite, you learn how to underwrite by doing. I've been very fortunate that like my clients are my biggest mentors. They're constantly guiding me on how to underwrite differently, look at properties differently. Like we shoot, we shoot deals back and forth. We're kind of like saying like, oh, well, what if you did this and tweak that and tweak this and you do, get financing here versus here. If we could do seller financing, this is what will happen. If we have regular debt, this is what the fact that like I've underwritten so many deals, like I could look at any property in the state. I mean, Jersey is like my backyard, so I know every area like the back of my hand. So I could literally tell you any property type where you need to be price wise to make a good deal happen without even seeing financials. It's just like when you get to that point in any marketplace, you're deadly. You have the ability, like it's just I have an eye now for so much. I have an eye for value, and every day, all day long, all I'm looking for is one great lead / deal a day. That's what I want. Because like that level of inflow of opportunity, it's really hard not to make money that year.
That's kind of what I've said. It's like if you can find a deal, the money will come to you.
Always will. Forever. Whoever controls the deal controls the money flow.
That's great advice. A lot of people are scared of that. When I first started, that's what I did. I just started cold calling.
I was terrified too, by the way. It's okay to be terrified, but it doesn't mean you don't do it.
Every day.
Right?
And even when you gotten to a certain level of success, some people stop, but you can't really stop.
Yeah, and like listen, like I've been there too. Like, when I hit my first $1 million in a year and I did it a second time or a third time, like I got complacent, very complacent, to the point where I was like, I really don't need to work hard anymore to make $1 million a year. And I had to like, there are going to be levels in your life where you're going to hit and then you're going to have to recommit to a vision that's bigger than money. Not anybody, but just about anybody who's, determined enough can make $1 million a year. But if your goal is to make $1 million a year and then you hit it, like, then what? You just give up? Like, you just stop? Like, what's the thing, right? Like, you have to have something bigger than just money that you're excited about. Or like, again, I almost took 6 months off of business because like, I just got bored, right? Because like, I didn't have something bigger than myself that I was attached to. And I had to recommit and say like, I'm not actually playing the game for Henry. I'm playing the game for my last name to mean something in this world, right? Like, I want my kids to grow up in a certain lifestyle that like, I can't, $1 million is nice and all, but like, to live a decent lifestyle here in Miami is not cheap. So it's like, I want to live a crazy, some certain level of lifestyle where like, again, like I want to be able to travel anytime. All these things is going to cost a lot of money. So it's like, I want my kids to be able to have every opportunity possible that's way bigger than $1 million a year. So I said, I need to commit to the next 30 years of my life, not just 1 year, but the next 30 years of my life to a certain lifestyle in work. Like I work 100 hours a week because I love it. And I've learned to it's a game now. It's like I'm playing a 30-year game versus saying I just need to make, X amount of money this year to be happy. It's not about that anymore. It's like, what's my freaking potential? And I'm going to do everything possible to achieve it.
What's the legacy? What kind of legacy are you going to leave?
100%.
Cool, man. Well, the last set of questions I have are kind of pertaining to YouTube. So I'm curious,
Sure.
What made you start making YouTube videos and getting into that world?
A friend of mine who used to work for Tony Robbins, who basically runs all my content. He's like my brother. Love him to death. He blew up on YouTube. Over 1 million subs. He basically kept telling me that I should be on YouTube. We kind of were, talking back and forth about content. I've always been doing content, but never to this level, obviously. And I finally got to a financial place where like I can invest substantial capital behind this and really build this into something. And I just also had so many people asking me questions about X, Y, and Z. So, prospecting, business, sales, how to make money in real estate. So I was like, all right, I'll start creating content for fun. And it kind of just blew up to what it is today. And it's a 30-year game, right? Like, it's cool to be where I'm at now, but it's nothing, this is just the beginning.
Like I said, if you go on YouTube and you search up commercial real estate, Tyler Cobble's going to pop up. you're going to pop up. And there's not many other people. I mean, there's some people doing like whiteboard math and but not the kind of content that you guys are making. So it's cool to see. Oh yeah, how do you structure that? So do you film most of your content yourself, or you have a videographer, or do you run the camera and then send your content to an editor and then they do everything else for you?
Yeah, so I used to have a videographer come to my house every single day, or not every day, sorry, once a week. We'd record for a few hours, but now I just have a green screen. So I set up the camera. It's in the same tripod. I have like my own space in my house. Down here, I record the content and then I just upload it to a drive. My team takes care of the rest.
The posting as well?
Mm-hmm. 100% of everything.
That's cool.
I'm very hands-on. I don't even have Instagram downloaded. I don't have, I don't have Facebook downloaded. I don't have TikTok downloaded. It's like my team takes care of all of it.
Yeah, that's what I would love to start doing, that because I'm starting in the content game, but it's a whole nother job. If you try to take away the time from brokerage to go,
it takes time.
Video, filming, editing, everything. It takes a lot of time.
And listen, like I've been there, so just know that it just takes time to gradually build up. I mean, I pay, I'm already paying $150,000 a year just in content, right? Just to have that all handled.
The other question was, I know that you have a coaching program. So aside from the coaching program, is the YouTube channel generating you real estate leads?
The coaching program for me is like, I do so much free content. Like I just love giving away everything for free. The coaching program to me is sort of like, is that ability, right? Like I want to be able to connect with brokers all around the country and help them do deals, right? Like I also have investors looking for deals all around the country. So it's sort of like a win-win-win situation where we just do deals together. So, a lot of my team members have come from YouTube where we work together and, I've helped people make several $100,000 a year that have come from YouTube. Then it's like, it's about the deals that person finds. Because it's like YouTube to me, it's like, it's about your audience. Like I'm speaking to a realtor, right? I'm speaking to an investor who's looking to buy more deals, right? A wholesaler who's looking to buy more deals, right? Because I'm speaking to that avatar, I'm not creating content specific to saying, how do you sell your multifamily property for more money? So like, I'm not going to get a seller to call me up and say, hey, I saw your YouTube video of how to make more money on, my multifamily that I own. I'd like to call you about it. I'm speaking to brokers just like yourself of saying, let me show you how to find great deals and then let's do those deals together. Because
like I was mentioning to you earlier, the avatar that I shoot for is an older person, and the likelihood of an older person who wants to sell their property being on YouTube is pretty slim.
Yeah, that's why I'm targeting the individuals like, your audience, you yourself, right? Like, how do I support you in building out systems and processes to show you that it can be incredibly simple to find great off-market deals and let me support you in closing on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you engaged in any other commercial real estate stuff? Like I've taken the first CCIM class, and then I'm not sure if you've heard of a coaching program called Massimo, but do you do anything like that?
I don't do any certifications. I don't need it. And Massimo does the same. Our coaching program is sort of like the same thing. They're basically competitors.
I really appreciate you coming on here. And
of course,
I think that people listening will get a lot of value out of this. I mean, when I was first starting, it was about 5 years ago, and I was looking on YouTube for commercial real estate related content, and there wasn't really any 5 years ago, or at least it was readily available. So seeing stuff like this for a new broker, or somebody who's been in the business for a while, just looking to up their game, I think this would be super valuable.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, my man. That's what it's all about.
Thanks, man, and thanks so much.
Yeah, of course. I'll talk to you soon.